for
A ruling yesterday by a New York State judge that Donald Trump had committed fraud by inflating the value of his real estate holdings goes to the heart of the identity that made him a national figure and launched his political career. By effectively branding him a cheat, the decision undermined Mr. Trump's relentlessly promoted narrative of himself as a master of the business world, the persona that he used to enmesh himself in the fabric of popular culture, and that eventually gave him the stature and resources to reach the White House. The former president made a campaign stop in Michigan today amid the United Automobile Workers strike as Trump signed executive orders that undid longstanding protections for 2 million unionized federal workers, including making it easier to fire and demote federal government employees. He is trying to court union workers, trying to position himself as the candidate that will protect their interests, despite vowing to fire thousands of federal workers whom he considers to be a part of a deep state. And after 148 days on strike, television and movie writers will begin returning to work. That happened today. The Writers Guild of America, which represents 11,500 screenwriters, said on yesterday that 3 internal boards had voted unanimously to end the strike and send a tentative contract with entertainment companies to members for ratification. The vote will start on Monday and end on October 9th. Well, as the writers are ending their strike, hospitality workers in Las Vegas have voted overwhelmingly to authorize a strike against major resorts along the Strip, a critical step towards a walkout. The locals, which are affiliated with the union Unite Here, have been in negotiations with the resorts since April over demands that include higher wages, more safety protections, and stronger recall rights so that workers have more ability to return to their jobs during a pandemic or an economic crisis. The Federal Trade Commission in 17 states sued Amazon. This happened yesterday, setting up a long-awaited antitrust fight with the e-commerce giant that could alter the way Americans shop for everything from toilet paper to electronics online. The 172-page lawsuit, the federal government's most significant challenge to the power of the online store, accused Amazon of protecting a monopoly over swaths of online retail by squeezing merchants and favoring its own services. Well, tonight is the second Republican debate. 7 Republican presidential hopefuls and none who are named Donald Trump are gathering tonight at the Ronald Reagan Library in Simi Valley, California. This is the second GOP presidential debate. And as I said, Donald Trump won't be there. He's actually in Michigan. The mission of those who will be on the stage tonight is to see if they can position themselves as the second place candidate, given that Donald Trump is way ahead of each of the candidates in terms of the polls. We'll be looking tonight to see who's going to steal the show. Will Ron DeSantis be aggressive and have a comeback from his failing campaign? What's going to happen with Nikki Haley? She had some momentum in the last debate. Can she keep that going? And what is Mike Pence going to do to distinguish himself from the other 6 candidates on that stage? We'll have a complete breakdown of tonight's debate on tomorrow's show. Well, you are watching and listening to Areva Martin in real time, and I'm your host, Areva Martin. This is your one-stop destination for today's trending news, expert analysis, and my unfiltered opinions. This is hour 2 of Areva Martin in real time, and this is the hour where we go deep and we dig behind the headlines. We bring you those big stories that are garnering, that are attracting a lot of media attention, and stories that have a big impact on the lives of everyday people. So today we are talking about America's workers. From Hollywood to Michigan, workers are going on strike. they are telling companies they have had it. They've had enough of making what they believe to be substandard wages, having insufficient benefits, while corporate executives continue to line their pockets and to see their salaries swell. Auto workers say that executives in the auto industry saw their salaries grow by 40% over the last 4 years, which is why auto workers themselves have asked for a 40% increase in their pay. And we are all celebrating the end of the 5-month strike of the Writers Guild. 11,500 members of the WGA have ended their strike and have signed a 3-year contract, and writers are going back to work. You won't see some of your favorite television shows right away because there is still a strike going on with respect to actors. Actors are members of a different union. They're members of the SAG-AFTRA union, which I happen to be a part of myself. And the actors have not been able to reach a deal. The SAG-AFTRA union has not reached a deal with the studios as of yet. But hopefully the deal reached by the WGA will be incentive enough for the studios to cut a deal with the actors so that everybody can get back to work and your favorite shows can commence production. When we come forward in this hour, we're going to be talking to a writer who was a part of that 5-month WGA strike, who is excited to be going back to work for himself as well as for his fellow writers. We're also going to be talking to an expert in this hour about strikes. Why are we seeing so many of them? Are workers getting what they are demanding? And what might this mean for the presidential election in 2024? Stay with us. More on America's workers when we come forward, right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is a rather bold pronouncement, but we think we can back it up. If you come across a radio frequency anywhere putting more variety and more diversity on the air than KBLA Talk 1580, we sure would like to hear about your discovery.
You got to have vision.
You can search, but we are confident that you won't find more shows covering more topics, hosted by a more diverse and inclusive lineup of talkers than the squad we have assembled here at KBLA Talk 1580.
This is the time, brothers. This is the time.
We've got something for everybody.
That's right.
Health and healing, history and humor, issues and events, empowerment and entertainment, all in one station.
What's really going on?
Free enterprise, you dig?
KBLA Talk 1580.
Yes.
Oh yeah. We got a lot to talk about.
King Kong ain't got on me.
If you're not listening to Tavis Smiley weekday mornings on KBLA Talk 1580, you're missing out. Everybody wants to talk to Tavis.
That's one reason, by the way, why I'm so thrilled to have this conversation with you today. The 3 people I always most hoped would interview me were Phil Donahue, Studs Terkel, and Tavis Smiley. Donahue's retired, Terkel's deceased, so this is a real thrill for me. And the reason why I have such respect for what you do is you have a historically informed conversation of depth and detail.
Be sure to tune in to Tavis Smiley weekday mornings, 9 a.m. to 12 noon on your unapologetically progressive radio station, KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580.
Is the pen mightier than the sword?
They say the pen is mightier than the sword. At KBLA Talk 1580, we not only have a lot to talk about, we have a lot to write about. Politics, relationships, business, empowerment, and culture. The all-star roster at KBLA Talk 1580 has you covered.
That's what it's all about.
Be sure to follow us on all our socials for our latest book releases, op-eds, essays, and commentaries from our hosts. And, of course, download the KBLA 1580 app as we strive to remain your most trusted, credible, and reliable source for the issues you care about. This is unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
What up, baby?
I'm young, gifted, and black.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we do more than just talk.
Hey there, I'm Jared Hill, president of the National Association of Black Journalists of Los Angeles, and I just want to say thank you for the benevolent $10,000 donation and scholarships for the next generation of black journalists.
And I'm Haywood Galbraith, photojournalist and founder of the Minority Photojournalism Institute. Thanks, KBLA, for your generous $10,000 scholarship gift to help us train the next generation of black photojournalists.
Congratulations to all the students who will benefit from the scholarship dollars raised at our Black History Month luncheon, honoring black legends in LA media. When we come forward at KBLA Talk 1580, we're bringing everybody with us. Everybody.
We are back, and in this hour, we are talking about America's striking workers, and we are celebrating that the WGA has ended its 5-month strike. Joining me in this hour is Kirk Moore. He is a WGA writer for American Crime, 13 Reasons Why, and For Life. Welcome back to the show, Kirk, and congratulations on ending or being a part of the WGA that has now ended its 5-month strike. First, I want to ask you, what does it feel like to know that the strike is finally over?
It feels really, it feels really good. I mean, you know, most of us, or well, all of us for the most part, have been out of work for the last 5 months, which is not the greatest thing, considering how expensive everything is right now. So, you know, some of us had it easier or a little bit better than others, but definitely happy that it is over.
Well, you know, there was a lot of talk, you know, and whenever there's a strike, Kirk, at first the thinking was, oh, this will be short. And then we saw some comments that were made by some of the studio heads. And then their thinking was, this could drag on even through January. Right. There were some folks who believed that it wouldn't end until then. What do you think was the catalyst for studio heads to come to the table and start to really negotiate in earnest with the writers?
Well, I think, you know, one thing is I don't think that they thought we would actually last this long, you know, so I don't think that they thought that the solidarity and the unity was going to sort of be the thing that sort of kept this thing going, because that's not really what happened in the past. And so I think that they really underestimated the solidarity within the union and how much we actually really did want this to change. And so even though I think some of I think a lot of people in the guild felt that this would go on longer, and many of us had sort of tried to do our best to prepare for this, you know, because we knew that we had to withhold in order to get what we actually deserve. You know what I mean?
So to help us understand, one of the issues I remember when you were here before we talked about was artificial intelligence. Big issue for writers, you know, using ChatGPT and other artificial intelligence platforms to basically produce the content that writers have been producing, you know, since the beginning of time. Where did you know, where is that issue in terms of the new 3-year contract?
Yeah, so, you know, right now, like studios aren't required to, like, they can't, like, we are considered writers. And so AI is not considered a writer or a human person. So they cannot be credited for any sort of screenplay that is written. So the credit has to go to the writer. And so that was one of the protections we wanted, because we didn't want studios to, for example, have AI create like a very bad first draft and then hire us to come in and do the second draft and then not give us credit. You know what I'm saying? And to fix it, but not to give us credit. And so now, you know, with the protections that we do have, like, they're not able to exploit AI, I think, in the way that they actually, you know, wanted to in the beginning. And so now we have the protections as writers to say that AI cannot undermine anything we do in the creative process.
Well, let me ask you this, Kirk. One thing I often think about. So if you write a script, say for American Crime, and they decide they're going to do another season, can they take the scripts that you have written, they paid you for, put them through some AI platform, and now create a derivative work from your original script that you wrote, can they do that without paying you for that derivative work or crediting you for that?
They actually now have to come to the WGA, and there's oversight to make sure that there's no sort of manipulation or exploitation in any way that could affect whether it's our pay, our credit, or anything like that. And so now they have to come to us. We actually can sue them. So there are protections, to at least for the next 3 years, because technology is ever evolving, and so things are going to change, and they're going to find other ways to be able to use this and to manipulate the language. And so we just have to make sure that we stay on top of it. But as of right now, the way it's sort of laid out is that AI cannot be sort of a head writer or a showrunner or anything like that, to where they would be the ones credited for the episode, for an episode, or for a feature film.
So is your understanding that any derivative work that AI could create, they have to come back to you, WGA, get your permission, work out some kind of deal? It always puzzled me, because you think about the music industry. So if I write a song and you now want to use that song, even, some of the lyrics, to put in a new song, it's
Right.
already established that you have to come to me, the license holder, the writer of that song, to get my permission in order to now use that hook or whatever in your new song. So it seemed like the writer should be given that exact same, credit and opportunity. So I wrote this. Now, if you want to use it in another project, come to me and I'll give you the rights to use it, but you got to pay me for those rights.
Right. That's a great analogy too. That's really good. Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah.
Let's talk about some of the other issues. The other issues were the writers' rooms. Those rooms that were one time, maybe 10, 20 writers, have been reduced over time. Where did that end up? Is there anything in this new contract that provides for protections so that the studios don't just go and get rid of half the writers?
Yeah. So like right now, and it's a little bit, it's kind of like inside baseball. So I'm trying to figure out the best way to explain it. But basically now we do have protections and also like minimums, at least we should say. We have minimums at what, depending on how many episodes that your show is, there's a minimum of how many staff can be in the room. So if it's 6 or fewer episodes, you have 3 writer producers and then 3 sort of mid-level to lower level writers. So 6, if it's 6 or fewer. If it's 7 to 12, the minimum number of writers in the room is 5, and the minimum number of writer producers is 3. So 7 to 12, you can have about 8, and then there is the minimum in the writers' room is 6 if it's 13 or more.
Okay, so they set levels. So as you have more episodes, you have to have more writers on for those shows that are longer episodes.
Right, exactly. So best way to explain it is like for a 13 episode show, and I'm sorry, I kind of misspoke. It's a minimum of 6 writers, and then 3 of those writers have to be writer producers. So then there is, you can hire, depending on how you depending on what you do, you have to hire at least a minimum of 3 other writers. But depending on how your budget is, you can probably hire more. Or depending on if you hire a staff writer versus a story editor, you can sort of work it out in budgetary wise how many more you can add. But there is a minimum of 6 for 13 plus, a minimum of 5 for 7 to 12, and a minimum of 3 from 6 or less. Which sort of puts the onus really on the showrunners, which we also got several protections as showrunners, because showrunners were not considered writers under our under our old contract. And so we were technically just considered producers, even though we did both. But now showrunners are considered writers, and they're now allowed to be members of the WGA. Well, we've always been members of the WGA, but what was happening is that, like I said, it's a little inside baseball, but what was happening is that there were certain companies, certain studios who would hire a producer or a director to be the showrunner on set after the person but typically that's the job of the actual creator or writer of the show. Now there's protections to say the writer and creator of the show is the showrunner. They will be running this thing moving forward. And now they can't like replace us, because like I said, there were certain networks who were trying to replace us with directors and trying to replace us with sort of like executives and producers.
Right. Okay. And so what do you think this means for the actors? Because you guys can write away, you can write scripts, you can write movies, but if you don't have anyone to perform, those scripts, TV shows won't come back and we won't see new movies. So what do you think you guys being the WGA settling, coming up with this compromise deal, what does this mean for SAG-AFTRA?
Well, I think that, hopefully it sort of lays down the groundwork of where they can go and where they can, what they can achieve in the negotiations. I mean, having sort of been watching this and, discussing this since the beginning, I can definitely say, and I even said it online, I was shocked and very pleasantly surprised by, what we gained. It was definitely beyond my expectations. And so I feel that, again, I don't think that the studios felt that the actors or the writers would be striking for this long. I think they really did underestimate that. And now they're realizing, damn, like, we have to pay. We have to.
They're losing money the longer that the writers are on strike, the longer that the actors are on strike, no new products, no new episodes, no new content. So they had to fill it in their own pocketbooks. They had to fill that financial pinch for them to start to realize that they had to make some concessions. What about pay? We heard a lot of folks online during the last 5 months talking about having to sell homes and moving out of state, changing careers, getting out of the Hollywood business altogether, because even if the strike ended, I saw some people online saying that what they were earning still would not be sufficient to live in an expensive place like Los Angeles or New York. Were there concessions made in terms of how much writers are paid?
Yes, there were several concessions. I mean, our minimums for first, initially, I'll go back a little. Initially, staff writers, which would typically they're usually their first time on the show, maybe their second time, but staff writers were paid a sort of a weekly salary, but they were not paid to write their scripts. So they would write that script and they would not get paid for it. Now all staff writers get paid to write their scripts.
Okay. So they have ownership interest in that script now. They're not just a paid employee. Okay.
They're not just a paid employee. They actually now have ownership of their script. They actually can get script and screen credit for their work now. The minimums for sort of like weekly base pay went up pretty significantly. So that's really nice, especially across streaming. We got some sort of, we now have stat-based residuals that we're going to get that the major streamers have to sort of share privately, but we at least know what those things are. So we understand like what we are getting paid and how much we're getting paid. We also are getting bonuses for how the data, and it shows like how many people are watching it. So for example, if 20% or more people watch a specific show within 90 days, we get like almost like a $10,000 bonus. Features get, I think, a $40,000 bonus. So, there are bonuses going around, and then we get like a 76% increase in international residuals. So, we came up in a lot of those areas, and I'm simplifying a lot, but
I can tell you're excited, and the excitement that you are exhibiting, I have seen and heard from other members of the WGA. I mean, this deal, this 3-year contract, is thought to be very, very favorable to writers, which is shocking, I think, to a lot of us, because you remember the studio heads came out fighting. They came out talking big trash, they were like not giving up anything. And obviously they didn't give away the bank. These guys are still going to make, and I say guys because most of them are men, are going to still make a ton of money. Executives will make money. The business will continue to thrive, even though there are cutbacks. And, there's some changes in the way the entertainment industry is operating because of streamers. Obviously, the whole business model has changed, but I'm excited and, ecstatic that you are able to reach a deal. And I think it's going to be, as you said, a model for SAG-AFTRA and other workers across the country, because we're looking at workers in Michigan and now workers in Nevada who are also, really demanding that they be paid a living wage as well. And so we have, I think, the writers to strike for being bold and being courageous and stepping out there and saying that you all deserved better pay for the work that you did. So congratulations again. Thank you so much for joining. Can't wait to see some of your new episodes and some of the new projects that you're going to have coming down the pipeline now that this strike is over. When we come forward, we're going to continue this conversation about striking workers across America. Again, what's driving these strikes, and are workers getting what they want, like the WGA workers? Stay with us, KBLA Talk 1580.
Gotta stay fresh, my house shot with a rest bar,
Have you visited us online for the grand opening of KBLA.store? For the best in new merch, gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store. Be sure to check out our KBLA team favorites at KBLA.store today. That's KBLA.store for all the official merch on your favorite talk radio station, KBLA Talk 1580.
The bounce is back.
Here comes the brand new flavor in your head.
Race, social justice, sports, politics, art, music, culture. We do it all on the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show. If you're not tuning in, then you are definitely missing out. It's the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show, weekdays from 2 to 4, only on unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
Like a brand new flavor in your head.
This is a rather bold pronouncement, but we think we can back it up. If you come across a radio frequency anywhere putting more variety and more diversity on the air than KBLA Talk 1580, we sure would like to hear about your discovery.
You got to have vision.
You can search, but we are confident that you won't find more shows covering more topics, hosted by a more diverse and inclusive lineup of talkers than the squad we have assembled here at KBLA Talk 1580.
This is the time, brothers. This is the time.
We've got something for everybody.
That's right.
Health and healing, history and humor, issues and events, empowerment and entertainment, all in one station.
What's really going on?
Free enterprise, you dig?
KBLA Talk 1580.
Yes.
Oh yeah. We got a lot to talk about.
King Kong ain't got on me.
If you're not listening to Tavis Smiley weekday mornings on KBLA Talk 1580, you're missing out. Everybody wants to talk to Tavis.
That's one reason, by the way, why I'm so thrilled to have this conversation with you today. The three people I always most hoped would interview me were Phil Donahue, Studs Terkel, and Tavis Smiley. Donahue's retired, Terkel's deceased, so this is a real thrill for me. And the reason why I have such respect for what you do is you have a historically informed conversation of depth and detail.
Be sure to tune in to Tavis Smiley weekday mornings, 9 a.m. to 12 noon on your unapologetically progressive radio station, KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. Is the pen mightier than the sword?
They say the pen is mightier than the sword. At KBLA Talk 1580, we not only have a lot to talk about, we have a lot to write about. Politics, relationships, business, empowerment, and culture. The all-star roster at KBLA Talk 1580 has you covered.
That's what it's all about.
Be sure to follow us on all our socials for our latest book releases, op-eds, essays, and commentaries from our hosts. And, of course, download the KBLA 1580 app as we strive to remain your most trusted, credible, and reliable source for the issues you care about. This is unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
What up, baby?
I'm young, gifted, and black.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we we do more than just talk.
Hey there, I'm Jared Hill, president of the National Association of Black Journalists of Los Angeles, and I just want to say thank you for the benevolent $10,000 donation and scholarships for the next generation of black journalists.
And I'm Haywood Galbraith, photojournalist and founder of the Minority Photojournalism Institute. Thanks, KBLA, for your generous $10,000 scholarship gift to help us train the next generation of black photojournalists.
Congratulations to all the students who will benefit from the scholarship dollars raised at our Black History Month luncheon, honoring black legends in LA media. When we come forward at KBLA Talk 1580, we're bringing everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us.
Connection established. Access granted.
In a survey conducted by the public opinion research firm Eviderus, KBLA Talk 1580 consistently emerged as the station of choice for black audiences in the Los Angeles media market and beyond. The survey also revealed that the vast majority of black audiences are concerned about the lack of black-owned media and are more likely to listen to talk radio that focuses on issues that impact the black community. For some reason, the other talk stations haven't quite figured that out.
If you think about KFI, well, KFI only has like a 3% black listenership. 3%. So there's a good 97% out there to support a station like KBLA.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black. Your black. Your black.
Follow the leader. KBLA Talk 1580. Follow the leader.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram at KBLA 1580.
Follow the leader.
Are you ready?
The station leading the way with exclusive interviews,
Follow the leader.
stimulating conversation, and intellectual discourse that empowers, enlightens, and informs.
Follow the leader.
Follow the leader at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Keep following the leader.
Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Gotta stay fresh, ma. House shot with a rest bar. Shot with a rest bar. Shot with a rest bar.
Have you visited us online for the grand opening of KBLA.store? For the best in new merch, gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store. Be sure to check out our KBLA team favorites at KBLA.store today. That's KBLA.store for all the official merch on your favorite talk radio station, KBLA Talk 1580.
The bounce is back.
Here comes the brand new flavor in your head.
Race, social justice, sports, politics, art, music, culture.
We are back, and in this hour, we're talking about America's striking workers, what's driving workers to take to the picket line, pick up bullhorns, and demand higher pay and better wages from their employers. We see the WGA just ended its 5-month strike involving 11,500 writers. And as they are ending their strike, the strike involving auto workers in Michigan, no signs in sight that strike is coming to an end anytime soon. And today, news that Las Vegas casino workers may also go out on strike. Joining me for this segment is Mike Williams. He's a senior fellow at the Center for American Progress. Welcome, Mike. Just big picture here, what's going on? Earlier in the year, UPS was threatening a strike. We know that hotel workers have been striking in California and other places. Is there something happening in the economy that's driving America's workers to take to the picket lines?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Areva. I really appreciate it. I think what's happening is that working people are finally standing up and saying, you know, you told us we were necessary, that we were, for the economy to function during COVID. And so now it's time to make it so that our livelihoods are supported by that, so that, you know, if you want your packages delivered, you should make sure that the people delivering them have a decent wage. If you want to enjoy a hotel stay, that the people doing the work there have health care and a decent retirement. And so this is people saying, you know, enough is enough. Like, profits just going to shareholders is not okay. It's time for working people to actually get what they deserve. They've earned it. And so we've seen that with the Teamsters, you know, bringing UPS to the brink of a strike and winning a major contract. We just saw it with the WGA, with the writers getting a fantastic contract. And then, yeah, like you mentioned, the culinary workers just voted to authorize them to strike, something like 95, 96% of the workers there. It's huge. And it's something that I think, has been bubbling to the surface, especially coming out of COVID, being told that they were necessary, they were essential, and then finally saying, if we're essential, we should be treated like we're essential.
Yeah, so the auto workers in particular, we saw Joe Biden in Michigan yesterday walking the picket line, or at least out on the picket line with workers. And then Donald Trump, former President Donald Trump, headed to Michigan today rather than being at the GOP debate. And Donald Trump has this mixed relationship with unions. He was an employer where he had union contractors in his union contract workers in his casinos. And he tried to position himself as a pro-union president, but yet once he was elected in office, he was probably one of the most anti-union presidents ever. But again, he's trying to convince those union workers that he's standing with them. How are workers, you think, thinking about candidates such as Biden coming to the picket line with the auto workers, and Trump going to Michigan today and trying to really rewrite his narrative, given how he behaved when he was in office as it relates to workers?
You said that really well, Areva. And then you think about the picture that's just been painted the last 2 days. We have the current president showed up on the picket line with the UAW at their invitation and supporting their demands and saying, I see you, what you're asking for is right, you've earned it. And then on the flip side, the former president is showing up tonight at a non-union shop that was potentially organized by the National Right to Work Foundation. This, to its core, shows the opposite of who these two are in terms of whether they care about working people and specifically unions. So this is just, it's the juxtaposition there is couldn't be more stark, couldn't be clearer.
I'm glad you made that distinction, Mike, because the way that the media is reporting out the story, it's almost like, it's apples to apples comparison. Biden is going to the UAW picket line, and Trump is going to meet with union workers in Michigan as well. And now you're saying, not so fast. These aren't necessarily even union workers, and this may be a rally organized by those folks who are anti-union. Why do you think the media is telling the story as if they both, implicit in what they're doing is saying Trump was also invited to Michigan by those striking UAW workers?
I don't know. I mean, perhaps I don't want to be too mean here, but maybe moving too fast, laziness, I don't know. But to be able to jump on this, be like, oh, they're doing the same thing, when in fact they're doing something so deeply different. In fact, I read a press report about this crowd that Trump has tonight, and it's like, they're like, are there actual striking auto workers there? Like, they're literally like looking in the crowd, like, are there any of the striking auto workers here? No, and there's like 3 or 4 and a crowd of like 100, 200. So I don't know what the media was doing. They got bamboozled, and it reminds me of 2016 when they just continually got bamboozled. And so speaking of being bamboozled, Areva, and you mentioned this in your first question about this, Trump, when he was president, was abysmal when it comes to unions and when it comes to labor rights and working people. His Secretary of Labor was an actual union buster lawyer.
Yes.
Before he became Secretary of Labor. So to say that he's kind of pro-union. No, he's not. He's horrible on these issues.
Well, he said he's going to fire thousands of federal union workers who he says are part of the deep state if he is reelected. So he's not even making any bones about the fact that he is anti-workers, and anyone that he perceives as being anti-Trump, he plans to fire if he is elected. And again, do you think, you and I, obviously those folks that read the paper and follow this closely, do this for a living, we get the distinction. But do you think the workers on the ground understand the distinction? I heard one of the UAW workers they interviewed when Biden was out there yesterday. She said, well, she's kind of happy Biden was there, but, she was a little critical. Say, like, why did it take him so long? Then I can understand rightful frustration, but, being critical of Biden, while at the same time, we know that Biden's record with unions is, superb. He has an outstanding record of standing with unions, and not just for photo ops.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think it's something where we also should have a little patience with the working people on the on the line on the picket line right now. They're in the heat of the moment. So I can understand that. And I think it's something where also when they get to the voting booth in, I don't know, a year and a couple months, they will have that stark picture in their mind. And a lot of them, these are smart people. I think too often politicians sometimes write off working people as not that intelligent. That's just not true. And so these are smart people, and they vote for many good reasons, a lot of them with their pocketbook. And so when they think about Joe Biden, he's like, oh, he actually stood up for us, and he stood up for our union, he stood up for our industry, and that's going to benefit Joe Biden in the voting booth. Then again, there's other people who are working people who vote for different reasons. They vote for culture war issues or whatever, and so that'll pivot them to a guy like Trump. But I think on the whole, working people are smart, especially once they get out of the heat of the moment. They will definitely see that Joe Biden has been there for them, and he will continue to be for them.
One of the other issues that's come up with the UAW workers, Mike, in particular, is this notion that their request for a 40% pay raise is outrageous, that they're being unreasonable. The auto manufacturers have apparently offered them a 20% increase, but the workers say, look, the corporate execs, the car manufacturers executives have gotten a 40% raise over the last 4 years. So why is it outrageous for the workers to be asking for a similar percentage increase in wages? How do we, get folks to see that it's nothing greedy about the workers who are in many cases not even making living wages, particularly, if they have kids in college, they have, sick relatives, sick parents, et cetera. But yet the readiness to accept that it's okay for these corporate executives to make these outlandish salaries in some cases. When we come forward, I want to get your take on that. Why are the union workers being called greedy when it's the corporate executives that are making multi-millions of dollars? Stay with us, KBLA Talk 1580.
If you're not listening to Tavis Smiley weekday mornings on KBLA Talk 1580, you're missing out. Everybody wants to talk to Tavis.
That's one reason, by the way, why I'm so thrilled to have this conversation with you today. The three people I always most hoped would interview me were Phil Donahue, Studs Terkel, and Tavis Smiley. Donahue's retired, Terkel's deceased, so this is a real thrill for me. And the reason why I have such respect for what you do is you have a historically informed conversation of depth and detail.
Be sure to tune in to Tavis Smiley weekday mornings, 9 a.m. to 12 noon on your unapologetically progressive radio station, KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. Is the pen mightier than the sword?
They say the pen is mightier than the sword. At KBLA Talk 1580, we not only have a lot to talk about, we have a lot to write about. Politics, relationships, business, empowerment, and culture. The all-star roster at KBLA Talk 1580 has you covered.
That's what it's all about.
Be sure to follow us on all our socials for our latest book releases, op-eds, essays, and commentaries from our hosts. And, of course, download the KBLA 1580 app as we strive to remain your most trusted, credible, and reliable source for the issues you care about. This is unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
What up, baby?
I'm young, gifted, and black.
KBLA Talk 1580, we do more than just talk.
Hey there, I'm Jared Hill, president of the National Association of Black Journalists of Los Angeles, and I just want to say thank you for the benevolent $10,000 donation and scholarships for the next generation of black journalists.
And I'm Haywood Galbraith, photojournalist and founder of the Minority Photojournalism Institute. Thanks, KBLA, for your generous $10,000 scholarship gift to help us train the next generation of black photojournalists.
Congratulations to all the students who will benefit from the scholarship dollars raised at our Black History Month luncheon, honoring black legends in LA media. When we come forward at KBLA Talk 1580, we're bringing everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us.
Connection established. Access granted.
In a survey conducted by the public opinion research firm Eviderus, KBLA Talk 1580 consistently emerged as the station of choice for black audiences in the Los Angeles media market and beyond. The survey also revealed that the vast majority of black audiences are concerned about the lack of black-owned media and are more likely to listen to talk radio that focuses on issues that impact the black community. For some reason, the other talk stations haven't quite figured that out.
If you think about KFI, well, KFI only has like a 3% black listenership. 3%. So there's a good 97% out there to support a station like KBLA.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black. Your black. Your black.
Follow the leader. KBLA Talk 1580.
We are back, and in this hour, we're talking about Americans who are taken to the picket line. America's workers are on strike. Mike Williams, a senior fellow at Center for American Progress, is joining us. So, Mike, lots of talk about the union workers, the UAW workers in Michigan being greedy because they're asking for a 40% increase when we know that executives in the auto industry have gotten a 40% increase in their pay over the last 4 years. How do we make sense of this notion that somehow workers aren't entitled to big pay increases, but executives are?
Yeah, no, I mean, Areva, I'm sure you're familiar with The Wizard of Oz and that scene right at the end. Like, don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain. This is, very much like, don't pay attention to all the millions, if not billions of dollars we're raking in. So whether it's the Stellantis CEO that literally made nearly $25 million just last year, or the fact that since the big three were bailed out back in 2008, 2009 by the Obama administration and the UAW, they've made almost $250 billion in profits. Yet the average wage of auto workers has effectively gone down by 19%. So this notion that like, oh, how dare they ask for so much money is ridiculous. They should be. I mean, like, it's completely fair. And to be honest with you, to show the fairness, the UAW said, okay, well, if we need to make sure that, this package and the company stays competitive and strong, we can drop that ask down to 36% ask. And the companies are still at like 20, 22% of a wage increase, which would not catch them up to where they should be had they gotten just basic cost of living adjustments. And yet, like you said, the CEOs have given themselves 40% pay increases, but no, not worth it to the workers, apparently. It's terrible.
Things we're hearing, Mike, is that the autos are saying, look, we are now having to make these huge investments in electric vehicles, and that is causing a strain on our cash flow. And that's one of the reasons why we're, laying off or not able to raise, wages. What do you make of that argument?
I make of that argument that it's ridiculous. The Biden administration and Congress just passed a bill called the Inflation Reduction Act, and it included massive subsidies that goes towards consumers to buy electric vehicles. That is creating a massive demand for these electric vehicles. It also included multiple programs that would help the auto companies and directly give them money to convert their facilities into new advanced facilities that makes electric vehicles. So yes, are they putting up money? Yes. Is that a good thing? It's a great thing, and they should be commended for that. But to use as an excuse not to pay the people who build the dang cars is abominable.
And so where do we go from here, Mike? We saw with the Writers Guild, the first reaction from the corporate executives in Hollywood was to come out and call them greedy, to say their demands were ridiculous. And there was rumor that they were going to just wait them out. They were going to force these writers to go bankrupt, have to be evicted from their homes and apartments, and get so desperate for money that they would cave. And that didn't happen. You saw, not that the corporate executives gave up everything, but they did negotiate a deal that the writers feel is very, very favorable and much different. I just interviewed Kirk Moore, who said, look, I didn't even imagine a deal this positive for the writers. So what is it going to take in this UAW strike for the corporate executives in the auto industry to come around?
Yeah, I think we're already seeing that. So this past Friday, there was an update from the UAW president, Sean Fain, that they expanded the strike from 3 facilities to 38, but they didn't include Ford there because they already have made significant progress in winning major concessions from Ford on multiple things. They got rid of the two-tier payment where they were paying like people like $16 an hour to start, and then multiple other pieces of it. They haven't finished yet with Ford, but they've made major progress. So I think we're already seeing this, and it does feel like it might be playing out similar to what happened with the writers and the Hollywood execs and what happened with the Teamsters and UPS execs, whereas the UPS folks like, oh, the Teamsters are asking for ridiculous things, and then in the end the contract turned out to be really, really good, in fact record-breaking. And you know what happened from that? All the the complaining from execs, like, oh, well, we don't know what we'll do if we have to pay this much. Now when there's an opening for a UPS driver, they're getting something like 100% more applicants because people see like, oh, that's a really good job now. I would love to apply for that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So let's talk about Las Vegas. The casinos, again, the workers at the casinos unite here, which is the hospitality union. They're talking about going on strike. Are all of these strikes, they're good for workers, absolutely good for workers. What impact do you think they're going to have on the presidential election? Is that going to help or hurt, particularly the Democrats, not just the president, but, down ticket ballots as well?
Well, I mean, these things can have reverberations across the economy, and so who knows what happens there. But I think when working people are expressing their power and showing their power, they're going to then go into the voting booth and say, who is it who's sticking up for me? Is it the Democratic Party or is it the Republican Party? I think that answer is pretty darn clear. So I think when, more and more people stand up for themselves, and then other people who maybe don't have a union, but they say, hey, the culinary workers, the casino workers, they're demanding better pay, better jobs. Good for them. They deserve it. Same with the auto workers, same with the Teamsters, same with the writers. Why don't I should get that too? Maybe I should get a union in my workplace. And again, going into the voting booth and saying, who's actually on my side here? I think that benefits President Biden and the Democratic Party.
Yeah, very good point. Even with the wage increases that are being given, and if Ford is able to negotiate a deal with the auto workers and the others come around, are workers still, even at these rate increases, will that be enough for folks to live comfortably, not extravagantly, but to be able to send their kids to college, to pay for healthcare bills, to pay for daycare, to pay for the basic necessities and have maybe a little left over for a vacation every now and then? Because it seems like wages, as you said, with the workers have been on a downward trend, and we have gutted the middle class, and it's like the have-nots and the haves. So where do we go? What do you think about these strikes? Are they getting the wages to where they should be?
I think they're making a lot of headway there, Areva. And, it remains to be seen whether it can keep up with cost increases or inflation, or if it can keep up with, the rising cost of childcare. You mentioned that. That one's crippling for working families. So there's a lot of work we need to do across the economy. But this is a massive one. Having working people show their power to organize and say, hey, we deserve better, we've earned it, and help increase their wages across whole industries will do a lot of good. It will bring a lot of people up to a standard of living that they deserve, and I think will make them a lot more comfortable.
And what about, what that wage is? If you live in a city like Los Angeles, the wages, we've had wage increases. The minimum wage in the city now is over $16 an hour, but by economist standards, that wage should be as high as $35 in order to be able to pay rent and to live in a city like LA. What is that number like in places like Michigan?
Yeah, I mean, it's not as high as LA. LA is an expensive place to live, right? But it's certainly higher than $16 an hour. While that is significantly better than, places in the deep South where the minimum wage is still the federal one at $7.75 or something like that, it's still effectively poverty wages. People are in poverty making $16 an hour. They're not having it easy at all. the auto worker wages are in the mid-30s. They're in the mid-30s, upwards of 40. And so by them fighting to get more of them up to that level, that means more and more of them across Michigan and Ohio and Missouri, places like that, they are truly going to have that middle-class wage where they can be comfortable. They can save for a house, get a car, pay for their kids' education, and also go on vacation, things that every person deserves.
Absolutely. And real quickly, Mike, before we run out of time, the issue of artificial intelligence, that was a big issue in the writer's strike. Does that come into play at all with the auto manufacturers? Are they using AI in a way that could replace workers?
Not that I'm completely aware of. There is a lot of automation involved in auto manufacturing that's become more and more, and that has taken a significant amount of jobs off assembly lines. So they have lost due to automation. But in terms of artificial intelligence, that's more been a thing of like trying to get that technology into cars so that they can figure out how to self-drive. But that wouldn't necessarily be problematic right away for the people making the cars and the components that go into the cars.
Well, thank you so much, Mike, for your expertise and all of this great information. We are encouraged, and hopefully we will see something very positive happen with the auto workers, and hopefully the Las Vegas casino workers don't have to go out on strike. That they can reach some kind of deal before they actually have to take to the picket line. So we're going to be watching this very closely. I'm encouraged that workers are finally getting what they deserve, that living wage that is so important. Again, thank you for joining us today. Coming up next is Robin Ayers and the Raw Report right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
Here comes the brand new flavor in your head.
Race, social justice, sports, politics, art, music, culture. We do it all on the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show. If you're not tuning in, then you are definitely missing out. It's the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show weekdays from 2 to 4 only on unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
Like a brand new flavor in your head.